Okay. All right. I think we're good to get started here unless anyone has any objections. Looks like Cheryl's not going to join her. Perhaps a little late. So let's go ahead and get started, I guess. So I'll call the Halifax Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:06 p.m. Today is Monday, September 11th. This meeting is being conducted remotely and recorded by Area 58. In attendance from the Finance Committee is Michael Bennett, Frank Johnston, Jim Walters, and myself, Todd Dargy. Absent is Cheryl Zarella-Burke. So the first order of business, as always, is the meeting minutes from the last meeting, which was held on Monday, August 21st. But I know Katie has drafted and disseminated those to everyone. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at those and review. Any comments, questions, concerns on the minutes from August 1st?
Minutes look good to me.
Okay.
Great.
Would somebody like to make a motion then to approve the meeting minutes from August 21st?
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Frank. Roll call vote. Jim?
Yes, to approve the minutes.
Michael?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes, to approve the minutes from August 21st.
Thank you, Frank, and I am a yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the update on Mr. William Smith as the newest member of the Finance. So as you're aware, we took a vote a few weeks back to recommend the selection of Mr. Smith, who's on tonight as a public participant. The next step is just we're waiting on the appointment committee to get together to conduct the appointment hearing. So, Cody's been working to coordinate that. It's just taking a little time to just get all of the parties coordinated, but it looks like that will be happening in the next, within the next few weeks, by the end of the month. So we hope all goes well, and William will be able to come on board shortly thereafter. So once the date's been nailed down, Mr. Smith, Cody will reach out, or somebody will reach out to you with that date to attend in person. It'll be at the town hall in Halifax, obviously, and we'll communicate that date and time to you once that's been nailed down.
He will have to come in person, Todd.
Oh, it's not?
No,
Do it remotely,
the
or?
appointing committee. Yeah, we're going to do it via Zoom,
Okay.
And I'll check with them if they want Mr. Smith there. I did pass along to the finance committee, made the recommendation, and this committee hasn't met in a number of years, so I'm not quite sure what they're going to want, but it'll be via Zoom. And if they do want him there, I'll reach out to Mr.
Yeah. Okay. And just a reminder as well that Cheryl Zarella-Burke will be representing us from. All right. Okay. All right. Any other questions on that? Comments? No. Okay. All right. So then moving on to the next item, which was the chairman update on the talent bank forms for the vacant finance committee position. So there was a form that was a talent bank form that was received that I was made aware of today. It looks like that came in back in early August, which I'm not really sure what happened with that. It wasn't in the mailbox. So the IT will take a look through that and see if I don't know why that was, but nonetheless, I did circulate the talent bank form to the committee members. Was received from Edward Bryan. So I guess if you all can just take a look at that form, I guess we'll look, maybe Katie, if you could reach out to Mr. Bryan and see if what his availability is, and maybe we can get him into our next session to do an initial interview with him.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. And then so that's the only talent bank form we received so far. And the posting is actually down right now from the site, so that's something that needs to be addressed as well, to get the position reposted on the site. I think it sounds like it was just up for 30 days, and it expired on August 31st. So we want to get that up as soon as possible, and then retain until we are able to have something appointed essentially. time because there'll be a secondary appointment, yes, meeting held, I guess, to fill this with whatever candidate we select, I guess. So that's that. I mean, the one comment I guess I would just make is that, I think it's in the best interest, of us and of represent the town to have as much of a diverse, pool of members, which, is largely male, as well as the selectmen, as we know, is all made up of males. So, I don't know how we increase, more participation from females, but to the extent where, a female may be interested in the committee, we certainly want to, encourage that. It is to make this committee as diverse as possible. With that being said, I certainly don't want to make decisions based on gender, but it is something I think that we should strive towards. But as stated, we have a challenge with getting or interested parties regardless of gender. So, but just something to be cognizant of, I guess, and and hope for the future that will continue to make this as diverse as possible. So, but looking at Edward Bryan's form, he definitely, from what I see, that was published on the Talent Bank form, he seemed like a fine candidate, and so definitely happy that he submitted interest in the position, and looking forward to speaking. So, any other thoughts, I guess, from anybody? Not at all. No? Okay. All right. So then moving forward, I guess the next item on the agenda was the fiscal year 25 department budget assignments. So here I just wanted to kind of kick off some initial thoughts on the assignments. We will have some new folks, hopefully 2 new joiners in the coming months. So we have to shuffle some of the assignments based on that. But just something to think about, I guess, as far as your current assignments. I do have the list of assignments from last year, but was curious, I guess, to get folks' opinions, thoughts on your assignments. Are you happy with the assignments you had, I guess, or is anyone particularly looking to take on new assignments for the upcoming fiscal year planning? Guess you don't have to answer that now, but just something to think about. I think we should wait like at least another session or two, and hopefully we'll get Mr. Smith on board, and then the secondary candidate thereafter. So we could kind of go through the final assignments on a later session. I think that'd be ideal. But any initial thoughts, I guess, on your assignments from past years? Are you guys happy with what you had, or any burning interest to take on something different?
I'm happy with what I have.
Thank you, Michael. Frank, Jim, I know it was your first time going through it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll just kind of wait a little bit and see about, maybe taking on something else in addition to what I have, or, Cheryl's not here, so it's hard to, for me to, there's a couple of things I'd be interested in taking on in addition to what I already have.
Okay. Yeah, something to think about. And then, if you want to just think it over, and we can discuss it a bit more on our next session as we progress. But if there's something you're interested in, then, you definitely want to hear that. So you're afraid to hear your voice there, I guess. Jim, were you going to say something? Or?
Well, no, I was certainly, I was satisfied with what I had last year. I was just going to ask if it's, can you just send out like the list of what people currently have? Because I don't think I even know what everyone else has. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I do have that as a document. I'll circulate that post this meeting if you want to take a look at that, and then let me know your thoughts. I'm pretty flexible. When I did the budgets in the past, I found that doing it a second time was definitely a little helpful. Just kind of go through it another time. So if you guys want to retain those existing budgets, that's certainly fine, and I go off with that. But I'll share the full list so you can look.
I'd just like to make one note on.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to be involved with taking the schools away from Jim or anything like that. So, how you doing there, Jim?
Can certainly be one of the more challenging ones. So, but
They certainly are.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm flexible in taking, anything. So if somebody wants to come off a budget, whatever it may be, certainly just, express that. And then we can certainly, when we nail down the budgets, that in detail. So, but anyways, in the interim, yeah, I'll share the list, from last year with everyone. And we'll go from there. So we did have them assigned though too, just based on 6 people, right? So hopefully plan is to get up to the 7. So there will be carving off some budgets, I guess, from some folks, right, to kind of fill that 7th person. So, which, should be helpful maybe too on the more challenging ones. If you're able to take a few off the plate, then maybe it's not as, but yeah, so we'll keep this on here for now and talk a bit more coming weeks. The next items on the agenda were the wage study update. Cody, I guess you have a quick update you can share, I guess, on that.
Sure. So as you may recall, we received a grant to conduct a compensation and classification study. That was a result of the large number of requests for reclassification from in front of wage and personnel. We've contracted with GovHR is the firm. They are the leader in these compensation classification studies throughout the country, but here, particularly in Massachusetts, in the past, 5 or 7 years, we've done roughly I think about 2/3 of communities in Massachusetts. We have kicked off. They have started a lot of the behind the scenes work. They identified our comparable communities. They are holding an employee meeting Wednesday with the staff to go over kind of the process and some of the expectations of what the employees will be requested to do. We are working on uploading several hundred documents that we will need to send their way for them to utilize in their review. We have a very good project manager. She has a number of years of experience as a human resources director in Massachusetts. She just recently retired, so it's nice. They kind of have that global exposure, but they also, our project manager is someone who's very familiar with municipal government here in Massachusetts, which is important. So we are on track. And it really should start picking up here soon. I have a timeline basically after the meeting Wednesday. Surveys will go out to employees. During my department head meeting last week, I explained the process to all of department heads and kind of the expectations that we will have for them. And right now we are looking at probably a first or second week of December town meeting. The plan is to discuss this at not tomorrow's Board of Selectmen meeting, but at the meeting on the 26th to nail down a date and have the board vote on the date for a special town meeting, which, like I said, right now we're eyeing for first or second week of December.
Okay, and so in that timeline, I guess, did they specify an estimated date that they'll release the final report, I guess?
I mean, a lot of it depends on us and kind of the responsiveness of, our department heads. The goal is there's about 35 positions that they're looking at, non-union positions. This is a pretty small study for them. Our project manager is doing one for another town with almost 200. So I did express the timeline to her, and there's no issues getting it done with some time to spare for that December town meeting. We'll probably have a report, a draft report sometime, early mid-November would be the idea. And draft meaning pretty much final, except for maybe a couple small tweaks that we need to make internally. Because there are going to be things, that come up. I did this in my previous community, and, a couple of positions came up, and they're just, 1 or 2 were kind of out of whack, and we said, okay, we need to, look at this position again. So those are the types of tweaks we'll have to make. But other than that, it'll be a pretty final report. And the plan is for them to come in and give an in-person presentation to wage and personnel be the goal. So
Okay.
as we get closer, we'll communicate that as well. But I think it's important to have that in-person meeting with GovHR here, and so that they will be doing that.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the committee, I think, would definitely love to sit on that as part of the wage and personnel
Mhm.
be there. So, but yeah, if you could keep us updated on that, that'd be fantastic. Any
Absolutely.
questions for Cody from anyone? Go ahead, Frank.
Cody, what was the name of that firm again?
It's called GovHR.
GovHR.
Yeah, so GOV and then just the letters HR. They do a number of HR solutions for municipalities around the country. If you go on their website, they have a tab that says compensation and classification. You can click that, and then you can actually zoom into Massachusetts, and it'll list every community in Massachusetts that they've done one of these studies for. It's quite extensive. And if you want to get an idea of kind of what the final, at least layout will look like, Kingston just contracted with GovHR, or I guess last year contracted with GovHR and had a study done. And theirs is right on their website. So if you go to Kingston's personnel or wage and personnel tab under their website, and it says, I think, fiscal 23 report or study, that'll give you an idea of what the layout will look like. Obviously, numbers will be different, but the itself will be the same idea, same concept.
Okay, yeah, I did actually see that. We looked at that before when we were kicking off the wage and personnel committee, and that report definitely was very well done. So that's exciting news. And then I guess the funding of this study was completely funded via the grant, right? That we received?
Correct. Yeah. So we actually we got a $50,000 grant to undertake this study. The nice thing about this is the study itself ended up being a little bit cheaper than I had anticipated, around I think 22,000. So with that
wow.
grant funding, once the study is done, we are going to have GovHR rewrite all of our job descriptions and update them and make sure they're kind of all aligned. So it's which is nice. It makes things a lot easier for the future. So it's a benefit.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
So the remaining funds of that 50 should cover that, Cody?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, nice. So we don't need to go find any other money or use any other funds from somewhere else then. Well, that's
No,
good.
yeah, it's great. We initially had anticipated, at least some of the job descriptions, having them rewrite them as part of the actual study. But in order to, move the study along, where, it took a little bit longer to contract than we initially thought, in order to move the study along, we said, let's get the study done, and then we can rewrite some of those job descriptions. And with that will come some of their recommendations from doing the study. They may say, hey, this position, you call this position an admin, where, really this is more like an office manager.
Right.
Those types of things they'll look at and make recommendations on.
Do the changes that are made to job descriptions, titles, things of that nature have to go before town meeting, or is that an internal thing within your group? How does it work?
Positions will have to go before town meeting as it is now, because they're laid out in the bylaw. Job descriptions is something that, we can adjust. It depends, right? If you're rewriting a whole job description and changing, what the position is, that's something that would go before wage and personnel right now. When we post a job, I always go and just clean it up, and I'll send it to our HR counsel, and he will review it just to make sure it's legally compliant. Those types of changes we just make internally, but anything, significant would go to wage and personnel for the change. And then anything where it actually changes the position itself, the name of the position, would have to go to town meeting.
Okay.
We're working on, we got another grant for an HR study as well. So we also have another firm doing an HR study. And part of that is going to be looking at they're actually doing it, but they're looking at the bylaw itself The bylaw really an antiquated way of doing HR and personnel in municipalities. Now you see policies. It makes it cleaner, and it really allows for action throughout the year. You're not at a town meeting, and it really leaves the policy decisions to those that are most involved. Whether it be the Board of Selectmen, some sort of personnel committee. It really leaves the decisions to them because you're the ones that know it more, right? Reclassification request or whatever it may be. Know it maybe more than the average town meeting member, who maybe doesn't follow the intricate details of Halifax personnel.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying there. That's something that has to be managed really internally because you're working day by day with these people to understand what the positives and the negatives are of the situation.
Yeah, right. One of the many reasons GovHR kind of does a nice job compared to some of the other firms out there is they give you basically the tool that they utilize to classify positions. They're going to give us that tool at the end of this study. So if we have a reclassification request or if we have a new position that we've created, we can actually go in, utilize this tool. It's very objective, and you classify the position. And that way there, it's really not, well, I took on this responsibility, so I'm going to move you up a grade, or this position's similar to that position, so you're going to be this grade. It really is a system where you go through and you pretty much use this tool, and it'll give you the grade that the position should be in, which is great for reclassifications and new positions.
Yeah, it sounds a lot cleaner, more manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cody, and that the bylaw review, that will include the review of the financial management policy as well, right? Part of that?
That's a separate study we have going on. So the HR review is just of our wage and personnel bylaw and our HR policies.
Oh,
and
okay.
then sometime in October, we will have DOR coming in to do a financial assessment. And that's when they'll look at our financial policies. Once I have an exact date from them, we're penciling on their calendar for October. I don't have the exact date. Once I do, I will notify all of you, and then particularly Todd. They may want to meet with you, so
Okay.
I'll keep you updated on that. It varies depending on who from the state is doing kind of this exam, or it just depends on the town too. So, but I'll keep you guys updated on that. But that'll be a full financial review, financial policies, just a total financial evaluation.
And were there any recommendations or notable findings or anything that came out of the annual audits that are performed, I guess? That get that management report or whatever, right?
We can, if you want to have that on the next meeting, we can have
Okay.
that on the next meeting. Katie, if you want to, if it's okay with Todd, put that on the agenda for the next meeting. We can go over those. I won't get into too much detail, but nothing else.
Okay. Yeah, Katie, if you wouldn't mind just adding that for the agenda for next time, just to just for the highlights, I guess. Just really more interested in anything notable that's mentioned in the audit,
Yep, absolutely.
the management report. Okay, yeah, that'd be great, Cody, if we could just spend a few minutes just going through that, I guess, because we've never seen that before either. So just seeing how it's laid out and that stuff, I think would be beneficial as well. Just to have an understanding of how that review is operating as well.
Yeah, prior to the next meeting, we can send out, it would be the fiscal 22 audit. That's the last audit that was completed. We can send out a copy of the audit, and then, I'm not a guy to go through and explain the whole audit to you, but we can certainly go through kind of the management letter.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, all right. Anything else from anyone for Cody on this on the wage study item? Everyone good? Okay. All right, so we're gonna move along, I guess, then on the agenda. So the next two items, Cody, were to review the capital planning and operating budget process.
Yeah, absolutely. So how much of a overview would you like of the capital process? I have all of the documentation. I can give you kind of a quick overview of each of the documents. I can give you a high level kind of explanation. You tell me what you're looking for and I can provide it to you.
I guess I mean, I'm familiar with it, I guess, but I don't know, Jim or Frank, I guess, what are your thoughts, I guess? You good with just the overview, or you want detail, I guess, or?
I think the overview is a good place to start. If we have any further questions, we can certainly dive deeper. I
Okay.
took a look at the documentation that's available through the Commonwealth and their websites. So, and I think I shared some with Frank last week or the week before. And, so I'd say an overview is a good place to start. And I would like to also understand a little bit better our role in this as a committee.
Yeah, sure. So, last year obviously was a kind of crazy year, right, for Halifax in the process. So we can't use last year as as the norm. But it's really standard practice for every community to have a 5-year capital plan. Things change. The first couple of years are usually pretty solid. Year 4 or 5 are tough, right? It's hard to really nail down what you're going to need. But there's certain things that we know, right? If highway department gets a new truck and they know their trucks last every 8 years and they just got one in 2015, then the idea is, hey, I'm going to put it on my capital plan in 3 years for 5 years out. That way, at least it's on the radar and we know about it. It allows us to budget. There may be years where capital requests are light, but we can say, hey, let's pull an item from next year because free cash was good this year. It's really just a tool for us to plan. So a goal of mine, since getting here, is to develop a 5-year capital plan for the town. And with that, we're going to start the process early. We've kicked it off at department head meeting in August. I went over the process with department heads. But basically, a memo will go out just like the operating budget, explaining, all capital requests. There's a form that we're going to utilize. So, Jim, if you look at the state process, our forms are a little bit different, but process is very similar. Where any capital request, departments need to fill out a request form, and then what'll happen is we're going to give them a deadline to get that form into Andy and I. And then all of their requests will also have to be put on a department capital plan. And what they'll need to do is they'll need to prioritize for each year. So if they have 3 capital requests for this year, 2 next year, and 3 the year after, they'll need to prioritize each request within each year. Because what happens is if we have more requests than funding, we need to be able to prioritize, what departments and which items within the departments get the funding. So once we get all of that in, Sandy and I will review them, work on compiling a full townwide capital plan. We'll plan to meet with the departments. Just, this is a new process for many of our departments. So we're going to be there to assist them with the forms. And at that point, once we have a solid, capital plan, the capital planning committee will begin to meet. And similar to what you guys do, where you have the departments come in to give a presentation of their budget, we will have several capital planning committee meetings where we'll have departments in, they'll go over their requests. We'll really focus on the request for fiscal 25, but with the idea of, hey, this is something I'm going to be looking at in 26, 27, 28, or this is a multi-year project that I'm requesting the first half this year, whatever it may be. And at that point, the capital planning committee, probably sometime late February, will vote a capital plan. And that's what will then come to you as the finance committee, and basically just look for your your blessing, your vote and approval on the capital plan. So the capital is really on the capital planning committee, and then it'll come before you once they've made their recommendation.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, we're putting together a 5-year operational plan for capital expenses for each department, right? And is that above and beyond the budget?
Yep, the independent capital plan, capital budget. So it'll be submitted by department, but then we will have a town-wide. So Sandy and I will compile it into a town-wide capital plan. And that's what your bond rating agencies want to see as well. So this is nothing new to the municipal world. It's just bringing it back to Halifax.
So this should help control some of the last minute operating budget spending toward year end.
I mean, Sandy and I have talked about this. We want to be a little bit stricter with that anyways. And I think just getting our department heads in more of the mindset of planning,
Yes.
Naturally will help some of that. So a number of things, but that's the goal, Frank.
Yeah, no, I understand. And
so capital items are anything that's $20,000 or more, or has a life expectancy of 5 years. Usually those are the articles that you see. This year we put them all together into one article, but it's what we usually spend our free cash on. The one-time buys, the trucks, the cruisers, things like that. So it's less about the end of the year spending, but more about planning when we need to replace equipment.
so understand that. It just, to me, it seemed like there were a couple of departments came in at year end that had excess FY23 funding that they wanted to burn for certain items, and I think that needs to be controlled a little bit better, just because you have money left, let's just not burn that money. We have other places that we can put that into reserves for that
Right. So
catastrophic issue that may come along in FY24 or 25.
right. So one of the things that Cody has implemented to hopefully get that a little more under control is a new purchase order policy.
Yeah.
Where if they're going to make a purchase over $2,500, they have to fill out a purchase order, show that it's been properly procured for. And I'm sure at the end of the year, as these are coming up, we'll be able to see if there's something that's, someone's just spending money to spend money or.
Right. And because some of these requests that came to us, money had already been spent and items had been procured
Right.
prior to.
Yep.
So that's what the purchase order, they should
Correct.
not be spending that money until
Right.
the purchase order's been approved.
Yeah. And some of
Taking a
funds
little
were
while to get
significant.
into the groove, but yeah.
Right. I know where I came from. If we pulled something like that, it wouldn't go over very well.
They wouldn't have liked it, huh?
No, they did not. No.
So I guess, Cody, when you send out the memo, I guess, to the department heads, could I just ask that you copy the finance committee on that, that instruction there that you send out, just so we can be aware of like what's communicated, the expectation, that kind of thing?
Yep, I have you CC'd on the memo on the bottom, so you will receive a copy. I'll be sending it out either later tonight or tomorrow morning.
Who's on the capital planning committee?
What's that?
Who are the members of the capital planning committee?
So from the finance committee, it's myself, which is one of the items I wanted to bring up tonight. So, given that I'm the chairman of the committee now, I think it makes sense for somebody else to fill that capacity in place of me. So I'd be interested to, if anyone's interested, I guess, in my spot there. But, my assignment I guess how does that work, Cody? I guess because we reshuffle because my appointment's up in next year, 2024. We have to wait for my appointment to be up, I guess, or we do a reshuffle based on change of my role, I guess.
I think the liaison to the capital planning is something that you guys do yearly.
Well, I have an appointment. No, I mean, I was appointed to a 3-year term. I have
On the capital planning?
yeah,
Oh,
I was appointed to, I mean, I have the card actually earlier in here.
huh.
It expires on June 30th of 20. So, but anyways, I mean,
He's giving that up.
hey, you want it, Frank? Here you go.
Yeah, I'm busy right now. I was
No,
gonna,
but it's no, I mean, I found it. That's actually where I started before I joined the finance committee, was on the capital planning, and I just kind of maintained that sense. So it's really like it's what, 2 members at large, or 1 member at large, Michael Zarella, and then 1 board of selectmen, which I believe is Jonathan Seelig. Is that right,
I
Cody?
think it's John Bruno, but I'm not
Oh, is it
positive.
Bruno? Oh, it is Bruno. You're right. Yeah, yeah. So it's Bruno, and then it was myself. But
So it's supposed to be a member of the Board of Selectmen, a member of the Finance Committee, the town accountant, and 2 members who are not town officials or employees.
Right. And we only have 1 member at large, which is that. So we really do need another member at large.
We can post it. Yeah, we can get something
Yeah.
posted.
yeah, so I mean, if Mr. Bruno is going to stay on, I guess, as chairman of the selectmen, then I'm happy to do so as from the finance committee as well. I just thought that it maybe makes sense to have a more junior person, I guess, if you will, on the committee to not like sway the opinion, I guess, of you know what I mean? Because if like say Bruno and I already approve it, then that might sway folks' decision on approving it through finance committee and board of selectmen, I guess. I think there's a bit of a conflict of interest, I guess, almost there, I guess.
I disagree with that, Todd. I would actually kind of hope that you would at least stay for the next year because you've got some experience there. It's starting back up. I think it's important to have strength in there this year going forward. That's just my personal opinion of that.
Okay. Yeah, and if that's the feeling of majority, then I'm happy to stay on. I've enjoyed being on the committee, to be quite honest. But again, I didn't want to sabotage, I guess, the independent thinking, I guess, of and challenge process of the. I think it's important to have that segregation and duty, where possible, I guess, if you will. But something to be discussed. So, anyways, yeah, I'm happy to stay on for now, anyways. But I guess. All right. Any other questions? I guess, or for Cody on the capital planning part? I guess was that helpful overview? Any other detailed questions at this time? I guess. No. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Cody, for that. It was very helpful, I guess. And then you want to hit on the budget process, I guess.
Yeah, so Sandy and I have been talking about this, and I'd kind of just like to walk through what we're thinking. The process, I think, here could be a little bit more efficient. So, when we look at, I think, one of the things with liaisons, you as finance committee members meet with the departments, go over kind of their proposed budget, and then they come to a finance committee meeting and present the budget to the whole committee. And somewhere in between there, right, Sandy and I are kind of reviewing it. We did a little bit of it this year where we had the management recommended budget, which is pretty standard. But there really needs to be more involvement from management administration earlier on, because we're the ones big picture, right? We kind of know on cross town. So the thought was at next finance committee meeting, we would present you with a draft budget memo. We won't do it earlier this year. I want to give people more time. And I also don't want to be as kind of strapped up against the deadline as we have to town meeting, for next year. So the thought was bring a draft budget memo to you at your next meeting, review, get feedback, send it out shortly thereafter. We would have budgets due from departments. We'd give them, if we got it out at the end of September, have budgets due sometime, early December probably. And then at that point, so the budgets would be sent in to Sandy and I. And at that point, what I think would be a good idea is schedule the liaison meetings. Would be a meeting with myself, Sandy, the liaison, and the department to go over these budgets. And the thought there is, that first kind of submittal is a draft. And then we can walk through with the liaison, how does this fit in, right, to the town's budget? Before it gets to you guys, and maybe at that point, once it's already gotten to you, we may be in a position where we say, you know what, no, this doesn't work, or it doesn't fit in here. So just earlier involvement. And then once we've met, right, with the liaisons, maybe some changes have to be made. At that point, they submit kind of more of their final departmental budget to the full finance committee. And then you would have them in like you would normally to present their budget to the full committee. So really, I guess the only difference is just being more proactive and having Sandy and I involved more with the meetings. I just think they'd be more productive, and we could flush out some more of the high level goals. The second part of it is, it's a good exercise. We did this in my previous community, is ask departments this year to basically create two budgets, right? So last year, you typically have some sort of, you have an idea, right? And so the idea being, we want level service, okay? Or we want level funded, or maybe you want people to create a wish list budget. But this year, I think it would be a good idea if we did the opposite. So ask departments to create a level service budget. So only increases where they need to keep the service of where they are. And then also ask every department to present a budget with a 10% cut in their total budget, and ask them to strategically review their budgets, identify where they could cut 10% and it would have the least impact, but also be able to provide a written response with the budget of if we did have to move forward with this 10% cut, what would the impact be to service in their department? And it certainly takes a little bit of time, but with the idea being that there's actually a description of what would a 10% cut look like, not just we wouldn't be able to have full staff, or this or that. More of, we won't be able to have full staff, and the impact to Halifax will be X, Y, Z, right? Pretty specific as you can be. But it's a good way for departments to go through and really justify, right, that all of the services that they provide in the budget that they really need. And also it allows us to review if we get into a position where we may have to do, some sort of cut. The departments have been through this exercise and, know where maybe they could pull from. Our local receipts were, we certainly met our estimates this year, but they are not coming in at levels that they were. And same with new growth. Our new growth has slowed down. It was a little bit better than we had initially anticipated, but we're a community that relies pretty much solely on residential taxes, with some state and local receipts. And, we're limited by Prop 2.5, right? So we can only increase our total tax levy minus new growth of 2.5%. And you guys know just from seeing the operating budgets, the town's pretty lean. There's not a lot of places to cut. And just kind of keeping level service, 2.5% isn't it. So it's just a good exercise to go through. It gets department heads to really think through the process. And, if this were ever a scenario, what would it be? So I know that's a lot of information, but so basically the process is kind of one part of that. And the second part of that is just submitting two budgets with a 10% cut.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that sounds like a great idea. I mean, definitely having The meeting up front, I think, will definitely help facilitate a much smoother overall process, I would say. And then, having the two budgets, I think, is first to have. And it's almost like, I guess, going through the exercise of just identifying like what are our core functions, right, by department, must-haves, and then, what are those others that are, potentially where we could cut from, I guess, right, and having those two segregated buckets. And if you have to cut by the 10%, that 10% is going to come off of that secondary, category, if you will, right, other than services. So that's where your impact would be. And then, I do like then the detail up front of, how that will affect the town with services and stuff. So yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. When were you thinking about kicking this off, I guess, then, though, to have those first initial discussions?
So we'd like to get the budget memo to you guys for your next meeting. We can review that draft. It'll basically have everything that I've really laid out here tonight in a memo form. And then we'll have the forms with it for them to submit their budgets. And give them ample time. We are asking a lot. I do recognize that. To go through and do this right and justify it. So I think if we kicked it off at the end of this month, and then we'd give them all of October, all of November, and have it due, sometime in early December. At that point, start the meetings with Sandy, myself, liaisons, departments, have those throughout December. And then that way there, I think come January, February, you guys can hit the ground running and have departments come in, and hopefully those go even quicker because you should have much more refined, kind of fine-tuned budgets when it gets here. That's the goal. But even if not, you still are given 2 months, all January and February, ideally, to review those and make some sort of recommendation on a budget the end of February with the best information we have. Technically, I mean, the warrant is to close March 1st. I mean, that's tough. The school's budget, we never have that. They're updating the regional agreement, and what was it, Sandy? March 21st, I think.
It was like March 21st. That's their goal, to get the assessments to the towns.
But if we can at least kind of be proactive and have our portion done, March 21st it's tough, and it's something Sandy and I have been talking about. We'd like to get a little more involved with them because with our town meeting when it is in May, we have to have the warrants to print first week of April. So if they're not getting us an assessment, until March 21st, never mind, they need to go through the process like every other department. They are a department of the town. They need to go with you, right, to meet with their liaison. They need to meet with us and their budget. 54%, I think Sandy said, of the town's budget is the schools.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
So we need to be able to review that in the March 21st. It doesn't give us a lot of time. It's not us being difficult. It's really just the way the timing is when our town meeting is. March 21st is tough.
Yeah, that's extremely tight for 54% of a budget.
Right.
Yeah, last year was pretty painful last year, for sure.
And also,
I
you
should say.
don't want to have to.
That's mild.
You don't want to have to rush through it. When you're
Exactly.
you guys
Yeah.
have every right to, put them through the process and ask as many questions as needed. So
Absolutely.
we're going to try to work on this year, see if we can get something sooner. If it's something that just isn't possible, not this coming year, but maybe in future years, we look at changing town meeting, making town meeting the end of May, right? And if they get us the March 21st, then we could have a little more time. So we just don't want to be in the situation of kind of having to push things through and rush.
Yeah, that might be the way we need to go, I guess.
So just a quick question, Cody. The new job classifications, they're not going to impact the 24 budget, but next year's budget, right?
No, so
So they're gonna have to add that. They're gonna have to add their, we want these X amount of grades into the new budget then.
well, yeah, by the time we ask them to have their final budgets submitted for
Uh-huh.
fiscal 25, we'll have the reclassification study completed and hopefully implemented at a special town meeting this December. Yeah, the special town meeting in December, you would be voting for fiscal 24, right? Retro to July 1.
So we're going
which
back.
we already put that money aside.
Okay. Okay. So that said, are we anticipating having this done in the next couple of months? I mean, it took us 6 months to get to where we are, and they're just starting. Because we voted to table this on the 22nd of February.
Yeah, they once they start, Jim, they move pretty quickly. They're a highly sought after firm. When you look at the amount of communities they do in the state, so that's kind of what took longer than we anticipated, was getting them on board. But now that we've started, they're moving pretty quickly. I mean, they had a lot of the comparable communities data done within a couple of days, actually, from the time they started. So I feel very confident in the schedule that they've provided.
All right.
All right. Anything else for questions for Cody? Budget process at all?
No, I think it's good to get started early.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I like that more involved as well with Cody and Sandy as well, especially on some of these bigger budgets, a little more complicated.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful too, like I said, going through it a second time. Like the first time I remember,
Yes.
was just a lot of different moving, right? That you're not familiar with. So I think you both will find it easier going through it a second time, and then with these changes as well, I think it's going to make it that much, hopefully a process, I guess.
Yeah, and I would think the department managers would appreciate that as well, having some help and guidance for them as well.
Right. Yeah.
And make their life a little bit easier too.
Also be a good opportunity this year to kind of just clean things up. And I think you even saw as we went through the budget last year, there was a couple of random kind of line items didn't necessarily make sense to have that there, or maybe this line item should have been incorporated into that one.
Right.
So it's a good opportunity for us to look at those things too, and provide that cleanup where needed.
Yep.
Andy's in favor of that one. Yeah.
So Sandy, you're sticking around a couple more years, I understand.
No. But just make it easier for the next person, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel your pain.
Sandy's going to be on the finance committee with you guys pretty soon.
Well, I was
women.
thinking of that earlier when we were talking. We could recruit Miss Sandy and, give her maybe, 6 months off or something, and then she can, after she gets bored, she'll be looking for something to do in the evenings.
Well, I think you might have a full board by then, but we'll see,
All right, very good. Anything else on the operating budget? Anyone before we move off of this topic? All right, hearing none, I guess. So the next item on the agenda was the committee liaison update. So this is a new item that I thought it makes sense just to have this as a recurring, just in case it's something to share with the liaison. So as noted earlier, I'm on the capital planning, so I can give updates, here in regards to that as up and running there. I think the only other liaison at the moment is Jim, right, on the zoning bylaw review committee.
Yes.
Good.
Updates. Well, we went through I think Article 3 last week, where we still have, I think, another article to go through. Cody, keep me straight here. So it's myself and Frank and John Bruno, Jerry from the bylaw or the zoning committee, and then another gentleman whose name apparently escapes me at this point, and the town attorney. So, I guess I did. I think it's going. I think it's going fine. I think we're doing a lot of good work. I think a lot of the stuff needs to be reviewed. As you can see, most of it. I think the last amendment I saw on one was like 1996, and I think, or actually 2000, I think. So I think it's been quite a while since they've been looked at, and I think we're doing some good work there, in my opinion. Frank?
Yeah, I agree. I'm on that committee as well, Todd. I guess I should have told you that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I didn't realize there was two of you on there.
So yeah, we've gone through three, and a fourth one's coming up next week. As Jim stated, there's some old stuff in there, and it just needs to be refreshed. Language needs to be moved around. A lot of things can be consolidated as well, because you're jumping from one to another, especially with multi-family housing. It's in 3 or 4 different places. Refer back to this, refer to that, and it contradicts the previous one. So Jerry from zoning is come up with, I'm assuming he got that to Cody this week or last week.
He did.
Grouping it all together into one place, so you're not going through 12 different areas to find it. And will make a big difference. And then the attorneys with bringing the language more in line with what the state language is as well, so it's not contradicting that as well either. And especially with some of these projects that are potentially coming up in Halifax with these big housing type units, having these regulations cleaned up in advance of that is going to really help the different planning boards and zoning boards and the townspeople out.
All right. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that update. Michael, you're not assigned any liaisons at the moment, right? No. Okay. All right. Just wanted to double. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for that update. Then moving on, I guess, for correspondence and as may arise. I haven't received anything or seen anything. I don't know if anyone else has. That is a no. Okay. All right. So then public participation, I guess anyone online has anything? There are none. I'm going to move on then to the next meeting planning. So when we discussed last time, we were thinking about doing the meeting on Monday, September 25th. Jim will actually be unavailable that day. So I was thinking, or I wanted to see if it makes sense to maybe move it to the following Monday, which would be October 2nd. And then that would also, enable us to get back onto our typical schedule, which would be first and third Mondays of the month. So we would do August 2nd, and then so I was trying to put on there real quick. Then it would be the 16th, so 2nd and 16th, and potentially October 30th. We might squeeze a meeting. Well, we'll have to see, I guess. But anyways, yeah, I want to try to get back onto the first and third Mondays if possible. So any objections, I guess, to that, to meeting instead of September 25th, but moving that to October 2nd? Then again on the 16th, October 16th, those dates look good? Or?
I'm good on the 2nd.
Okay. What about the 16th, though?
Yes, I'm good on the 16th.
Okay. All right. So no objections to get back onto the first and third Monday schedule?
Nope.
And then, like I said, we'll have to, we may have to squeeze in ad hoc meetings as we'll be here. But I'd like to get back on that schedule.
Do you think we can have Mr. Smith ready to go on the 2nd?
Yeah, I think so. It gives it an extra week as well, so it's that helps in that regard, right? So
that'll be good.
Yeah. And then so on October 2nd as well, I think if we can get Mr. Edward Bryan in to review his talent bank form and have a discussion with him, and in whatever other talent bank forms I received now and then, that would be a good start as well on the final position. I think it's been almost 2 years since we've had, I want to say, 7 people on the committee. So It would be a huge accomplishment if we can fill both roles. So.
Yeah, that'd be really good, especially going into FY25 here.
Yeah, it just helps with the dispersion of the budget. So it's one extra body involved will spread out the work more, and then I think the changes that Sandy and Cody are proposing, I think will hopefully lead to very successful process overall, I guess.
Yeah, the wage and
Eliminates the
personnel, the
Yeah.
capital planning, the budgets, got a lot of irons in the fire here.
Mhm.
Exactly. Okay, all right, and Michael, you're good with those dates, the 2nd and the 16th?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right, so we'll do that. I'll send out an email just to notify Cheryl as well, so she's aware of the change in the dates there. And I guess so, Cody, I guess we'll just wait. We'll be looking, I guess, for your confirmation back when that appointment committee meeting will be held, I guess.
Yep, we're shooting for sometime next week. Just been tough to get
Yeah,
all three of them available at the same time.
Todd, just to clarify, we are canceling the 25th of September, correct?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll cancel that and meet. So our next meeting will be on Monday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. And we'll continue to do them remotely.
All right.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. I guess that's it for today's meeting. I guess would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Michael.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Roll call vote, Frank,
Yes, to adjourn, please.
Michael,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes for adjournment?
and I am a yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. Meeting is adjourned at 7:07 p.m. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Aye.